Greetings, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are here to bring you live coverage of today's White House press briefing. That is going to start at 1 Eastern, 12 Central Time, assuming it starts on time. And we will have live coverage of that for you. I am still in Lima, Peru for a little while longer. So I ask that you bear with me, if you can, with any kind of technical issues that might pop up. Also, there's, once again today, a bit of maintenance going on in this building I am in. So you might hear some banging in the background, which I have no control over. I apologize for that. Hopefully it won't be too bad. And we will be giving you live updates on some different stories, and we will have the White House press briefing coming up in 49 minutes. 49 minutes. I appreciate you joining us today. We have Ruth Krafasi moderating over there on YouTube, and Beth Mythical. I really appreciate our moderators being here. Thank you. Roberts May Queen as well. Also, we have moderating right now Matthew Kohai 3. Thank you so much, Matthew, who's over there moderating. Hold on a second here. Thanks also, Shraki, for subscribing. Thanks, Shraki. And on Twitch, Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. Thank you for moderating. Thanks to our Facebook mods as well. Really appreciate it. Margaret Riley, Margaret Riley is there moderating. Hey, thanks, Kristen McConnell Gates, for subscribing. Thanks so much, Kristen McConnell Gates. I really appreciate that. Okay. Give me one moment here. Let me just pull something up. Oh, I'll put the stock market update up for you. So stock Dow Jones up a little bit. By the way, something we'll talk about is China announced overnight that they are matching Trump's. Well, they're not matching, but they increased their tariffs on the U.S. to 125%. President Trump has put 145% tariffs on China. But China announced that it put 125% tariffs now on goods being imported from the U.S. So we're going to talk about that. Also, there was a small plane crash in Boca Raton, Florida, which some of you may have heard of. Hang on a moment here. You can see, for example, right here. Oops. You'll see it in a second. From Flight Radar 24, we're following reports of a crash of a small aircraft in Boca Raton. ADSB data indicates the aircraft is a Cessna 310R N8930N. The aircraft appears to have been trying to return to the airport shortly after takeoff. So that's not good. They say it departed at 10:13 a.m. local time. The last ADSB message was received at 10:22 a.m. local time. It was not in the air for that long. That was Boca Raton Airport. And I have seen some reports that say 3 people passed away, but I'll try to get you an update on that. Oh, let me show you what the FAA said about it too. Give me 2 seconds here. Here it is right here. It'll pop up on your page in a second. Boca Raton. A Cessna 310 crashed around 10:20 a.m. local time on Friday, April 11th, after departing from Boca Raton Airport in Florida. 3 people were on board. The plane was headed to Tallahassee International Airport. The FAA and National Transportation Safety Board will investigate. The NTSB will lead the investigation and provide any updates. So 3 people were on board that plane. KTWU Fox Orlando says the conditions of the people on board were not immediately known. Big fire word happened, because I've seen pictures and video. Anyways, thoughts with the people on board. That does not sound like a good situation. If I get updates on it, I will let you know. Check one thing here. One witness told ABC News he saw a fireball. I'm looking at I don't have rights to the video, but I'm looking at a video of the crash site, and it certainly looks like there's a lot of debris there. Like, it's not a plane in one piece from the picture I saw. But I will let you know if I see more updates on that. Michelle said she saw bodies on news footage. I haven't seen that yet myself. It might be floating around. I couldn't show it anyway. There's another video floating around that AZ Intel posted that showed like a large, huge, big plume of smoke going up. And then B&O News posted a video that showed like a fire going on. A large fire, so near a road. And that also was a Cessna 310. Hang on a moment. Cessna 310R plane. Here is the Wikipedia page for Cessna 310. Oops, you'll see it in a second. There. Cessna, that's a Cessna 310P, but just to give you a sense of the size of the plane, I'm showing you the Wikipedia page here. I don't know why that crashed. I am seeing a couple of I don't want to quote this because I'm not sure. I'm seeing some websites saying a Cessna 310R has room for has 4 to 6 seats. I'm not sure that's sure. I'm not positive about that. Roughly 6 people, including the pilots. That's the kind of size of plane we're talking about. Yes, again, I am in Lima, Peru, as I said a few minutes ago. Unfortunately, there is some maintenance in this building going on today that I have no control over. So you may hear some banging. I can't control it. I'm sorry about that, but it just is the way it is. So I apologize for that. I hope you can, hopefully it's not too bad for you. I want to take some comments. Also, I want to talk about the whole China thing. Our viewer Adrian Goodman says, so sad after what happened yesterday. I know at some point today the NTSB is supposed to give an update on the helicopter crash in the Hudson River yesterday. I don't expect them to have figured out what happened by today. But they're supposed to give some sort of update on camera. By the way, there's a new video coming out. Not coming out. There's a new video that emerged of the helicopter, apparently of the helicopter crash yesterday. Certainly looks like it's from yesterday. And I'm going to post a link to it in case you didn't see it. Breaking News and Aviation News and Videos posted it. I think BNO News also posted it. And what you clearly see in the video, which I don't have the rights to show you, but you clearly see the helicopter start to spin in midair and then things fly off of it. I believe you're seeing the actual tail and rotor come off, I believe. But it's really striking video. Not good. And then it's just flying along, that stuff comes off, and it goes down, just falls down to the ground. Winston Syme says the rotor detached. Anyways, I just posted the link in the chat. I reposted it on my X account too. But that's a new video. I hadn't even seen that yet. I mean, that just came out a few hours ago. Acadia says that was so crazy. Government Slave says, looks like the rotor slapped the boom. You know, I've seen some stuff online where people claimed that the rotor somehow ended up hitting part of the helicopter. But I'm not sure. I have no idea. But I mean, it was flying along and then it just broke up. Oh yes, as Weather and Aviation mentioned, this came out overnight too. That I had posted this on my X account. But the head of a division of Siemens, I believe it was, in Spain. Him and his family died. You can see here, hold on a second, I'll show you something here. Mayor, family was to celebrate child's birthday when NYC sightseeing helicopter crashed, killing 6. A family from Spain was about to celebrate the 9th birthday of one of their children, says AP, when their sightseeing helicopter broke apart in midair and crashed into the Hudson River, killing all 6 people on board. The victims included Siemens executive Agustin Escobar, his wife, Merce Camprubi Montal, a global manager at an energy technology company, and 3 children. I think I read that the kids' ages were, well, I don't want to say because this says 9. Mayor Eric Adams said the children were 4, 8, and 10 years old. And the 8-year-old's birthday was Friday. Escobar was in New York for business, and his family flew over to meet him for a few days, said the mayor of Jersey City, New Jersey. Just terrible. Wow, is that true? Photos on the helicopter company's website show the couple and their children smiling as they boarded just before taking off. I haven't seen that yet. I'll have to look and see if I can find that. I think it was called New York Helicopters, or New York Helicopter Tours. New York Helicopter Tours. Do they still have those photos up? Where are the photos? Purchase pictures. Is that what it is? I looked at the site yesterday. I'm at the website, and they certainly do have pictures from yesterday of people getting on helicopters. I don't know if I can find the one of that helicopter. I don't know if it's still up. That's kind of crazy. I'm looking at a picture, but it does not, of some people, but it doesn't look like that family because it's only like one kid. I wonder if they took those down. They have a section. Oh, hold on, no. I'm sorry, I bet it might be there. What am I looking at? You can choose by the different flight. Well, I'm looking and I'm not seeing. 10 a.m. People are saying it's some one of our viewers. It's all over Facebook. Anyways, I believe you. It's just, I guess it was up there for a while. I'm just looking right now. I'll be pretty stunned if it's still up there. Anyways, I just looked through quickly. I couldn't find it up there, but maybe it is up there. It's not the biggest thing in the world. Anyways. Billy Marie says it's not there anymore. Again, I'm not looking at to show the photo. My point was what I was interested in more than anything else is it's still even on the website. Anyways, I guess it was up there for a while. All right. We are going to cover the White House press briefing in about a half hour. Currently, I want to talk about the tariff situation. I'm sure that'll be asked about. China raised their tariff on the U.S. to 125%. Right now, Dow Jones is up about 0.4%. S&P 500 up about 0.5%, NASDAQ up about 0.5%, Russell 2000 down about 0.5%. And I'm going to show you the something about the China tariff in a second. T-Wiki said, have they grounded all flights from that company? I've not heard anything about grounding of flights from that company. I don't know for sure, but I haven't heard anything about it. Give me one moment here. Oh, thank you, Matthew. Matthew Kohai, one of our moderators, sent me a link. A bunch of you said you had seen the pictures of the family online. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Picture of there's pictures of the family. I'll post a link to it. The Daily Mail posted them, but I mean I'm guessing they're posted other places too. But you can actually see it's just crazy. It's pictures of the family that were taken as they boarded the helicopter flight yesterday. So sad. Unbelievable. All right, let's I want to talk about the tariffs because this is going to be talked about in the press briefing. Give me 2 seconds. Let me pull something up about this. Is this it right here? Here. Oops, you'll see it in a second. Global tariff battle escalates as China retaliates with 125% tariffs on U.S. goods. Remember, the current U.S. tariff on Chinese goods has gone up to 145%. AP says China announced Friday it will raise the tariffs on U.S. goods from 84% to 125%. The largest salvo in an escalating trade war between the world's two largest economies that has rattled markets and raised fears of a global slowdown. What I should do is throw up on the screen there. While President Trump paused import taxes this week for other countries, he raised tariffs on China, and they now total 145%. To be clear, there's still 10% baseline taxes on many, many countries by the U.S. He paused the reciprocal tariffs, as he called them. China has denounced the policy as economic bullying and promised countermeasures. The new China tariffs begin tomorrow. Also, by the way, President Trump is having a physical today. At 11 a.m., Trump will have his annual physical appointment at the Walter Reed Medical Center. I want to try to find the statement from China. I forgot to do that. I want to try to find, they used some interesting language, China, but I have to figure out where they posted that statement. Let's see if I can find it. China's State Council. Okay, so if I go to their website, I should be able to find it. Okay, China's State Council. I'm going to their website. See if this works. It's loading. Where is, I'm on their site. I'm looking for their statement from today. Let's see it listed there. How about news section? Okay, maybe it's here. Sorry again, there's some maintenance going on in this building I'm staying in Lima, Peru. So there's a little banging in the background. I have this list of updates from the China State Council. National staff, Xi Jinping. Keep going here. I really want to find you the, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. All right. Well, I don't know where it is. It's supposed to be on the State Council website. There's this. Ministry of Foreign Affairs. First quarter. National staff. Weird. I don't know. That's where it would be. I can't find their announcement about the new tariff, which is supposed to be on that page. But 125% tariffs now. You can see here. Hold on. There. China hits back at Trump tariff hike. U.S. stands its ground. This is from Reuters. Beijing increased its tariffs on U.S. imports to 125% on Friday, hitting back against U.S. President Trump's decision to hike duties on Chinese goods and raising the stakes in a trade war that threatens to upend global supply chains. China's retaliation intensified the economic turmoil unleashed by Trump's tariffs, which has seen markets tumbling and foreign leaders puzzling how to respond to the biggest disruption to the world's trade order in decades. Now, currently, the stocks are up a little bit in the U.S. today, a bunch of them. You can see the Dow is up by about 1%. An expert that Reuters talked to said recession risk is much higher now than it was a couple weeks ago. The tit-for-tat tariff increases by the U.S. and China stand to make goods trade between the world's two largest economies impossible, analysts say. That commerce was worth more than $650 billion in 2024. Beijing indicated that this would be the last time it matched the U.S. should Trump take his duties any higher. But it left the door open for Beijing to turn to other types of retaliation. China said, if the U.S. truly wants to have talks, it should stop its capricious and destructive behavior, said a spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in the U.S. For the welfare of the Chinese and the people of the world, for the fairness and justice of the global order, China will never bow to maximum pressure of the U.S. UBS analysts, in a note, called China's declaration that it would not retaliate any further with tariff increases an acknowledgement that trade between the two countries has essentially been completely severed. So, current tariffs right now, China 125% in the U.S., U.S. 145% on Chinese goods. Give me 1 second here. I think I have a little video I can show you about this. Let me take a few comments and I'll show you the video. Oops. Paula Thompson says, not good, talking about the tariffs. Belladonna Took says, F the global order. Travis Hesselman says, China is so aggressive. Rights and Freedom says China's thieving ways and corrupted trade will not be tolerated anymore. Nan B says, waiting on my order from Temu. As we talked about yesterday, countries like Temu and Shein, who were shipping in stuff to Americans from China and taking advantage of an exception that allowed packages with values under a certain amount, I believe $800, to be shipped to America without any kind of duties on them. President Trump has announced an end to that and announced very significant tariffs and fees on such packages. So I don't know how that's going to end up working out. But either Shein or Temu are going to have to change the way they get stuff to Americans, or my guess is that a bunch of that stuff will not be economical for them to ship anymore because of the large amount of tariffs and fees. We talked about that a bunch yesterday. Maybe we'll talk about it a little later. Let me try to show you here. Let me look at this. Let's see if we can check out this video here about the tariffs, China tariffs. Let's see. The audio may only be on one channel. Hold on. That's not the one. Where is the one I want to show you? Right here. Oh, here we go. Okay, we got a little video from Reuters from that article I was just showing you about the tariff situation. Let's check it out. Little video about the tariffs, about the China situation. Here, look. So you can see that, right? Let me hit play here. Let's see if this works.
Beijing hit back yet again against US tariffs on Friday. China raised its own tariffs on US imports to 125%. It's in response to US President Donald Trump's decision to hike duties on Chinese goods to 145%. The move further raises tensions in a trade war which threatens to upend global supply chains. The turmoil unleashed by Trump's tariffs showed few signs of easing Friday. Markets tumbled and foreign leaders were unsure how to respond to the biggest disruption to the world trade order in decades. Stocks were battered this week, but saw a brief rally Thursday after Trump paused duties for dozens of countries for 90 days. But that quickly fell away as global stocks fell, the dollar slid, and a sell-off in US government bonds picked up pace on Friday. Gold is a safe haven for investors in times of crisis, and the metal scaled a record high. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent tried to calm worried markets on Thursday. He told a cabinet meeting more than 75 countries wanted to start trade negotiations.
We're doing very well.
Trump himself expressed hope of a deal with China. But the uncertainty extended some of the most volatile trading in years. Asian indices mostly followed Wall Street lower on Friday. China's latest tariff hike also sent stocks down in Europe. The Stoxx 600 fell more than 1% on the day and was set for another drop this week, one of its most volatile on record.
There you go. Little summary there. So I'm assuming there'll be a bunch of questions about the tariff situation today in the press briefing, which is supposed to start in about 15 minutes. Let me just see. Sometime before it starts, I should have some video for you of the room. Is it posted yet? Give me a second. I'll check here. You don't need that. No, the briefing room is not posted yet, but I'll keep an eye out. Sometime soon, that should be posted. So when it is, Hang on a moment, actually. Give me a second here. Let me get prepared to show this to you. And then after the briefing, we'll talk about the briefing. Yeah, guys, people keep mentioning the Boca Raton plane crash in the chat. We talked about it a bunch on this stream. Also, I'd like to suggest you can follow me on X, because that's a way to find out if I've heard about something. But also, I post about stuff there. I post about all kinds of breaking news on my X account. So I posted about that a while back. So if you're on X and you don't follow me, I would suggest following me over there on X at Lookner. It was a small plane. It crashed in Boca Raton. There were 3 people on board. No word conclusively that I've heard yet on what happened to them. Not good. It was in the air, the plane, for about 10 minutes reportedly. I am pulling this up just to have it here. I have the briefing room. I have the video from the briefing room. One moment. Let me put it on the screen for you. I am putting on the video of the briefing room for you. You'll see it in a second. There it is. Oh, I got to put up live the White House. I'm going to take some more comments from you guys. Oops, that's not good. Here we go. There we go. By the way, thanks so much to PZ Papa Zulu for your support, who says there is a plan until you get punched in the mouth. I think PZ Papa Zulu is talking about China. Thank you. Thank you, B. Earhart, for the gift, for being a member. Thank you. Thanks also, again, PZ Papa Zulu, who says we have Truman Carter group, carrier group attacking Houthis, and Vyson carrier group about to join Truman. Double trouble. Thank you, PZ Papa Zulu. Also, thank you to Rhea Sarana, our member, who says, workers over billionaires stand up, fight back. Thank you, Jen Xer, for the gift membership. So nice of you, Jen Xer. Also, Beam Me Up, who mentioned a story. I think that was running yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. Maybe we'll talk about that after Beam Me Up. I got to check that out myself. Thank you also, thank you, Beam Me Up. Thank you, DJ Rob, our member. Thank you. Thank you, Koagoose, for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks, John Deeds, for your support on Twitch. Thank you, I'm the Batman, for your support on Twitch. Also, I want to shout out our moderators. We have Big Ball of Yarn, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai, 3 Sarah, and Tariag over there on Twitch. We have Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. Ruth Krafasi, Beth Mythical, Roberts May Queen on YouTube, thank you. And over there on Facebook, Margaret Riley. Thanks for modding. Thanks Rita Evans Lang for subscribing on Facebook. Kay Lowry Body moderating as well. Jennifer Ellers, thank you for subscribing on Facebook. you are looking at the White House press briefing room. Karoline Leavitt will be giving a White House press briefing. Okay, let me check a couple things here. There's an interesting story also going on that I'm guessing will be asked about. Oh, hold on a second, by the way. The NTSB is doing a briefing on the helicopter crash in the Hudson River yesterday. They will be giving a briefing at 2:30 Eastern Time. I think that, it might work out that we'll just show that on this stream. I don't expect them to have certainly figured out what happened to the helicopter yet, but we very well might be on the air when that briefing happens, in which case we'll just show it. Okay, so I just saw that. Oh, thank you so much up north from Canada, who says, where is North Korea propaganda lady? Hey, up north, that's very nice of you. I really appreciate your support. Thank you. Up north. NBC News says the 3 people on board died in that small plane crash in Boca Raton, and 1 person on the ground has non-life-threatening injuries. That's sad. Condolences to the families of the people who passed away in that plane crash. Oh, I was going to mention this story about, because I think it's going to be asked about, the guy from Maryland who the federal government said that they mistakenly sent to an El Salvador prison. I'll give you a little update about this real quick. U.S. says it needs more time to provide information on mistakenly deported Maryland man. I'm reading from an AP story right now. Lawyers for the Trump administration today said they're unable to provide information on the location and status of a Maryland man who was mistakenly deported last month to a notorious prison in El Salvador. The attorneys said they haven't had enough time to review the Supreme Court's ruling yesterday that directed the Trump administration to, I think it said to, what was the word it used? Yes. Was it to effectuate the return? Facilitate the return? What was the language of the Supreme Court yesterday? I'm looking it up. Facilitate the return. The Supreme Court if I have this right. Yes, the Supreme Court said that the Trump administration needed to facilitate the return of this man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And the district court judge who had been overseeing the case set a a deadline, I believe, of 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time for a declaration from the Trump administration addressing the man's location and custodial status and what steps the administration has taken and will take to facilitate his return. In response to the judge's request for information, Trump administration attorneys wrote in a Friday morning filing that it is unreasonable and impracticable for the U.S. government to reveal potential steps before those steps are reviewed, agreed upon, and vetted. So I'm assuming that is going to be asked about as well. Also, there is I guess an in-person status conference scheduled for this afternoon on that case, which I assume might involve the judge and lawyers from both sides. It is 11:57, so just in a couple minutes, this press briefing is going to start, and then we will talk about it after. What I need to do real quick is just make sure that I'm ready also with... Hang on. Okay. After it starts, I'll probably switch to the White House feed because that feed will show the questioners. I might have to also make a quick adjustment when it starts and there might be a slight, if the video and audio is off sync, I should be able to fix it. It just might take me a second. Golf Wang Puck says, I hear Trump administration desperate for a resolution with China. President Trump has hinted earlier he would like to make a deal with them eventually. But for right now, 145% U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods and 125%, that was just announced today, 125% China tariffs on U.S. goods, which go into effect tomorrow. Our viewer Anna Blomgren thinks China will not cave. They are like the Russians, professional sufferers. They can take a lot of hardships. Eric Zimmerman thinks that, it sounds like Eric Zimmerman is not optimistic about President Trump making a deal. Arturo says China will cave, while Eric Zimmerman says worst deal maker ever. I think he's talking about his opinion on Trump. We're not going to do a separate stream on the Boca Raton plane crash. Look, unfortunately, small planes crash quite regularly. That's not just something from this year. So I don't cover every plane crash. We talked about it a bunch earlier in the stream, if you missed it. 3 people passed away. It was a small plane that crashed in Boca Raton. It's very sad, but we're not going to do a separate stream on it. And we might have, as I mentioned earlier, the NTSB at 2:30 Eastern Time is going to give a press briefing of some sort on the helicopter crash yesterday. So we may end up covering that. We'll see. Thank you to our moderators, Ruth Krafasi, Roberts Mayqueen, Beth Mythical, Linda Belk, Larry, Misha, over there on X. Big Ball of Yarn, LB Prairie Dawn, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah and Tariag on Twitch. Thanks Ascertainment on Twitch for the bits too. I really appreciate that. And Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley over there on Facebook. Get ready, folks. White House press briefing. Thank you also, Berenico, for being a member. Thank you, Berenico. And Open Contact. Open Contact says we are all eternal souls at the end of the day. Thank you, Open Contact, for supporting the channel. Open Contact also says the great awakening of humanity begins. Let's unite. You know what? I got to update my headline because obviously it's not going to begin at 1 p.m. Eastern Time because it's already past then. Any moment, White House press briefing. Oh, thanks also to Rachel Hudson. That's very kind of you, Rachel. Thanks for your support. Rachel Hudson. Thank you. Oh, now why did I just lost my feed of the ticker? Reuters was showing it. Let me see here. I don't have that for the moment, so we're going to turn that off for the moment. If I get it back later, I'll put it back up. They don't always have a feed of it. So if there's a big move up and a big move down, they'll have it. You know what? I also think they can only show a limited number of feeds, and I think it got crowded out by some other feeds. Well, no, actually it didn't. So, anyways, I don't have that for the moment. If I get it back, I'll put it up. A reminder, when it starts, I might switch the shot that we're watching, which might take a second. So if you notice the shot switching, that's me. The Des Moines Register reports in a shocking development, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds said she will not seek re-election as governor in 2026. Is it 2026? Is that the year or is it 2025? They just said would not seek re-election. They didn't say 2026. I was assuming that. Iowa election for governor is 2026. 2026. She said it was time for her to be with her family, to spend more time with her family on her social media. Nick Sutton says eyeing Senate seat. I don't know. I just started looking into this. There is a 2026 Senate election in Iowa. I have no idea if she's going to run for it. Maybe she said something about it. I literally just saw it, so I'm not sure. Uh, 5C Oot says press is settled. Yes, the press is ready. The press is ready. L Text just sent me something which reminded me that I believe Steve Witkoff is meeting with Putin today. Steve Witkoff, President Trump's representative. I thought I saw that. Let's see if I can confirm that for you. Yes, Witkoff meets Putin. The Washington Post, Trump envoy Steve Witkoff flew unannounced to St. Petersburg to meet with Russian officials, including Vladimir Putin, today, as U.S.-Russia talks on the war in Ukraine appear to have stalled after Putin's reticence to commit to a ceasefire. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed Steve Witkoff's visit and later said Putin would meet with him, adding that they would discuss the war in Ukraine and that it was a good opportunity to convey Russia's position to Trump. It will be Witkoff's third meeting with Putin in 2 months. Witkoff's previous visit last month was similarly not announced ahead of time, and details of the meeting and agenda were sparse throughout the visit. In recent weeks, says the Post, Trump signaled a change in tone, saying that he was very angry with Putin after weeks of attempting to negotiate a ceasefire. As L Tex reminded me, President Trump, 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning we just heard. Let's see if I can read this real quick. President Trump today said on Truth Social, Russia has to get moving. Too many people are dying, thousands a week, in a terrible and senseless war. All right, so they just gave the 2-minute warning. This is about to start. Thank you, Open Contact, for your support. Thank you. We'll, after the briefing, we'll discuss it. We'll talk about it amongst ourselves. Again, when the questions start, I'll probably switch over to the White House feed because you'll see the angle switch so I can get the questioners. So please bear with me when that happens. But so far, so good. And if there's any kind of video audio sync issue, I'll do my best to fix that quickly. Any moment now, really any moment now. We heard the 2-minute warning about 2 minutes ago. Lily Lou says patience is a virtue. Thanks, Rimfire Channel, for being a member. We are about to start. I think it's starting. Nope. The door opened, but that's not her. That is a photographer. It is not her. Devil in Disguise says, curious to see what she'll tell today. Okay, here we go. Here we go. It's starting.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. As you all know, the President is currently undergoing his routine and long-scheduled physical at Walter Reed Medical Center, and we will have a readout from the White House physician. Last night, Kassina Karolina arrived back safely in the United States after being detained in Russia for more than a year. Since Inauguration Day, President Trump and his team have secured the release of more than 40 detained Americans abroad. This is more than half of the number of Americans released by Joe Biden in 4 years, and President Trump has brought these Americans home in 80 days. This administration will continue to work hard to bring Americans home from around the world. As I've said before, and I will say it again today, everybody in this room has access to the most transparent and accessible president in American history. The cabinet meeting yesterday was further proof. President Trump asked each secretary to provide an update to all of you in the media on the critical work they are doing at their respective agencies to deliver on his agenda. And according to new reporting from the Washington Times, who I believe is in this room today, President Trump answered nearly 100 questions from the press, all of you, during his first 3 open press cabinet meetings this year. That's nearly 20 times the number answered by Joe Biden in cabinet meetings during his entire 4 years in office. In more excellent economic news that was released yesterday, the Consumer Price Index report showed inflation fell to 2.4% in March, smashing expectations for the second straight month in a row. This marked the first drop in consumer prices dating all the way back to the COVID pandemic. Prescription drug prices saw the largest monthly decline on record. Prices for airfare, used vehicles, and car insurance all decreased as well. And energy prices fell 2.4% in March, driven by plummeting gas prices around the country. Also yesterday, House Republicans answered President Trump's call to move forward the budget resolution and officially set the stage for the passage of one big, beautiful bill. The American economy will boom after this bill is passed and the rest of the president's pro-growth agenda goes into effect. The largest tax cuts and deregulation in history, coupled with our energy industry unleashed and renegotiated trade agreements that put America first, are the ultimate formula to usher in the golden age of America. On that note, more than 75 countries have now reached out to the Trump administration, eager to address the trade issues that have exploited America and hurt our workers in the process. The phones have been ringing off the hook to make deals. And these countries wisely heeded President Trump's warning not to retaliate, and as a result, they were rewarded with a 90-day pause and substantially lower reciprocal tariff rates during this period so potential solutions can be achieved. Past presidents just willingly accepted the failed status quo on trade that ripped off our workers and our companies. But that's not who this president is. He creates his own leverage and negotiates deals better than anyone else who has sat in the Oval Office before him. And that process is currently underway. On another matter, the deadline for registration under the Alien Registration Act is today. All foreign nationals present in the United States longer than 30 days must register with the federal government. Failure to comply with this is a crime, punishable by fines, imprisonment, or both. As President Trump and Secretary Noem have both said, if you register and you leave now, you choose to self-deport, you may have the opportunity to return later legally. But if not, you will be arrested, fined, deported, never to return to our country again. The Trump administration will continue to enforce our nation's immigration laws. We will not pick and choose which laws to enforce. We must know who is in our country for the safety and the security of our homeland and for all American citizens. I also have a note from the First Lady to share with you on this Friday. On Tuesday this week, First Lady Melania Trump celebrated the advancement of the Take It Down Act in the House Energy and Commerce Committee. The important legislation passed the committee with bipartisan support, and as you may remember, the President talked about this bill in his address to a joint session of Congress last month. The First Lady remains dedicated to her championing child well-being, ensuring that every young person can thrive, and, of course, championing her Be Best agenda. We urge Congress to swiftly pass this important legislation. Here in our new media seat today, we have Jordan Berman. Jordan is a social media content creator and influencer and a lawyer who grew up. Jordan is the host of her own podcast called Unbiased Politics, where she dissects the top stories from the week from a legal perspective. Jordan focuses on bringing back real journalism from a nonpartisan perspective and has mastered explaining complex legal decisions to a mass audience in the short-form context. Her two biggest platforms are TikTok and Instagram, where she has roughly 500,000 followers on each. With that, please kick us off, Jordan.
Thank you. As you know, yesterday the House passed the SAFE Act, and many married women, soon-to-be married women, are concerned that the new voter ID requirements may inhibit their access to the polls. What assurances can you give women voters in America to ease their concerns?
Sure. Well, the SAVE Act, as you mentioned, was passed by the House yesterday. This is the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. I believe I'm getting that correct. And this act is a common sense measure. It would require proof of citizenship for voting in our elections. The Democrats have been fear-mongering about this bill, have been saying that married women, if their name has changed, they didn't change it on their identification, would not be able to vote. That is complete fallacy. There are outlined in the bill about how to avoid that. The president very much supports a common sense solution to ensuring that only citizens can engage in our elections. This is critical to improving the integrity of our elections and also the trust that American citizens need to have in our electoral process. So the president supports this bill, and that is a myth that has been proven wrong by the text of this bill, and I believe some of the co-sponsors of the bill have been very vocal in addressing that. And certainly I myself, as a married woman, would not stand before this podium if the president did not support such a common sense measure.
Thank you. For my next question, I actually want to give a voice to the American people. I sourced a question from one of my listeners. Her name is Bryn. She is from Oregon. And she asked, what, if any, plans do you have, the administration, for the money that will be generated by tariffs imposed on foreign goods? How will the administration facilitate the development of American industries when many critical components, labor, parts, etc., are much cheaper and more feasible from foreign entities?
It's a great question from your listener, and I want to thank her for submitting it to you to ask. That's the part of the new media seat, is so that everyday Americans across the country have a voice in this room. So thank you again for being here. Thanks for the question. The president's point about his trade and tariff agenda is to bolster our manufacturing industries here in our country, to bring down the cost of living here in our country, and to ensure that we are maintaining critical supply chains here in America. We cannot be dependent on countries like China if we want this country to be strong and wealthy. So the president wants to restore wealth to America by shoring up these jobs here at home, which will result in good paying jobs and higher wages for the American public. And so Americans should trust in that process. He effectively implemented tariffs in his first term while driving down the cost of living in this country, and that's what he's focused on doing again. Thank you.
As a follow-up question, could I just ask, are there any specific ideas that the administration has as to what that revenue, specific tariff revenue, will be used for?
Yes, to the heart of your question, the president has spoke about the trillions of dollars that he expects in revenue from tariffs and how we can use it to pay down our debt and to ensure that we are no longer faced with a crippling national debt in the trillions that is going to bankrupt our nation for future generations. So that money coming back home will make America in the green rather than in the red, which any small business owner across the country, I believe, can appreciate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kelly.
Tomorrow there will be negotiations between the United States and Iran in Oman. What are the president's chief goals for that, and is he satisfied with how Iran is responding to this? They don't want direct face-to-face negotiations, instead sort of old-school shuttle diplomacy where they're in separate rooms and messages are passed back and forth. So is the president comfortable with the arrangement there, and what is the chief objective?
Well, I have spoken to both the president and also his national security team who will be engaged in these discussions. These will be direct talks with the Iranians, and I want to make that very clear. I also spoke to the president just last night about his goal when it comes to Iran, and he has reiterated repeatedly to all of you publicly and also privately to his team here at the White House, his ultimate goal and the ultimate objective is to ensure that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. The president believes in diplomacy, direct talks, talking directly in the same room in order to achieve that goal. But he's made it very clear to the Iranians, and his national security team will as well, that all options are on the table, and Iran has a choice to make. You can agree to President Trump's demand, or there will be all hell to pay. And that's how the president feels. He feels very strongly about it.
And can you update us on Mr. Witkoff in Russia and what's happening with direct communications with Vladimir Putin?
I can confirm that Mr. Witkoff is in Russia to have direct communications with the Kremlin and with Vladimir Putin. This is another step in the negotiating process towards a ceasefire and an ultimate peace deal in Russia and Ukraine. As these negotiations are ongoing, I obviously will not get ahead of the president or his team, but I think the president has been quite clear that he's been continually frustrated with both sides of this conflict, and he wants to see this fighting end. He wants the war to end. We believe we have leverage in negotiating a deal, to a peace deal, and we're going to use that leverage, and the president is determined to see this through. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. President Trump has said China wants to make a deal on tariffs. The president says he has a great relationship with Chinese President Xi. He's willing to speak with him directly. Why doesn't the president just pick up the phone and get this ball going?
All of the things the president just said are true. The president, as I said from the podium just a few days ago when I was up here, would be gracious if China intends to make a deal with the United States. If China continues to retaliate, it's not good for China. The United States of America is the strongest, best economy in the world, as evidenced by the more than 75 countries who have called the administration immediately to cut good deals. So the president wants to do what's right for the American people. He wants to see fair trade practices around the globe, and that's his intention and his goal.
So is he waiting for China to make the first move here?
I'm not going to comment on communications that are happening or may not be happening, or either way. We'll leave it to our national security team to get these discussions underway. And as always, in the effort of transparency, we will provide updates moving forward. But the president has made it very clear he's open to a deal with China.
Why is he optimistic that China's going to make a deal or wants to make a deal? If they're not talking, where's that optimism come from?
He's optimistic.
Hey,
Sean.
why would any of our allies work with us to isolate China in a trade war if we're treating friend and foe alike?
You'll have to talk to our allies who are reaching out to us. The phones are ringing off of the hooks. They've made it very clear they need the United States of America. They need our markets. They need our consumer base. You saw Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the Oval Office with the president saying that he was going to bring down all of their monetary tariffs and their non-monetary tariff trade barriers as well. We've heard from South Korea. We've heard from Japan. The president has spoken to Vietnam. We have Italy coming to the White House next week. There's a reason for that, Sean, and it's because they need the United States of America and our business model and our markets to survive, and the president is using that leverage to our advantage. Michael.
Hey, thank you, Caroline. Two-part question on China. Beijing says it will simply ignore any further tariff escalations from the U.S. Does President Trump see this as China backing down? And as a follow-up to that, what do you say to people like Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary who say, you guys simply haven't tariffed China enough?
Look, the tariff rate on China remains where it was yesterday, at the 145% level. The president made it very clear when the United States is punched, he will punch back harder. And he hopes to make a deal that benefits the American worker and our companies that have been ripped off for far too long. And he's finally taking bold and courageous action to do that. You know, taking on China is, in the terms of trade and tariffs, is something that both Democrats and Republicans alike have spoken about for decades. President Trump is finally doing it.
Caroline, real quick, the president of El Salvador is coming to the White House on Monday. Does President Trump want him to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia with him?
The Supreme Court made their ruling last night very clear that it's the administration's responsibility to facilitate the return, not to effectuate the return. I believe the Department of Justice just filed another brief in the lower court. I would defer you to that for any updates. But as you mentioned, President Bukele will be here at the White House on Monday to talk about the cooperation that is at an all-time high. And we very much appreciate President Bukele and El Salvador's cooperation and the repatriation of El Salvadorian gang members who the previous administration allowed to infiltrate our country. Sure.
Thank you very much, Caroline. The president spoke quite highly of the great relationship that he has with the Turkish president. We know that the president might be heading off to the Middle East very soon. Is he planning to meet with the Turkish president, either here in the White House or in Turkey? Any plans?
I don't have any details about the president's overseas trip other than to say he was surely going to Saudi Arabia. There could be more countries as part of that trip. We're working on the details, and as I've said repeatedly, we will provide the details of that trip as soon as possible.
A trip to Turkey, or his invitation to the Turkish president, is under consideration?
I'm not going to comment on the details of the trip, but once they're confirmed, I will certainly let you all know. Yes, Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. I'd like to ask you about presidential health and also about tariffs. On presidential health, are there plans for the president's physician to come here and take our questions? And also, President Trump repeatedly makes remarks about the former president's health. Is he considering using his executive powers to bring any greater transparency there?
As I have said, the president is undergoing his long-scheduled physical. It's a yearly physical that every president receives, and we will provide an update on that by the president's physician as soon as we possibly can.
And about the former president and transparency regarding his health, are there...
Well, I can tell you there was certainly a lack of transparency from the former president, from the entire former administration, and frankly, a lot of people in this room when it came to the health and the competence of the former president of the United States, Joe Biden. There was one of the greatest cover-ups and frankly political scandals this nation has ever seen. It's been unraveled in some recent books that are being written by journalists who engaged in that cover-up and scandal, which is quite ironic. But this president is clearly committed to transparency. You in this room see him and hear from him on a daily basis. You in this room know from covering him, it's hard to keep up with him. He is a machine working around the clock every single day. And the physician, after today's physical, will provide an update on the report in the effort of transparency.
If I could ask about tariffs, there have been big swings this week in the Treasury bond yields. There's a theory that it might be because of China dumping these as leverage, driving up costs for U.S. loans like mortgages. Does the White House have evidence that this is in fact a result of Chinese dumping, and if so, is there a message on that?
Not to my knowledge, but I would check in with the Treasury Department on that. I can tell you I know our Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, is keeping a very close eye on the bond market. He spoke about it at the White House this week, and I know he's keeping his eyes on it day to day. Ed.
Thanks. Thank you, Karoline. So the administration, I have an administration source who's telling me that we're weeks away from the first deal with the country over tariffs. Where is the administration? How soon can we see that? And what country is that first one?
I won't reveal or get ahead of our trade team as these negotiations are obviously ongoing, but I can tell you very good progress has been made. Jameson Greer was on television this morning and I spoke to him, and he confirmed that more than 15 offers are already on the table, which is remarkable in just a mere matter of days. And as I said earlier, we've heard from more than 75 countries around the world. This is a team effort. The president has a team of great, brilliant advisors who have been with him every step of the way, and all of them will be divvying up the workload. And I just want to give the president and his trade team credit for taking this on. This is a massive undertaking. There's no doubt about it. We take it very seriously. The president is determined to renegotiate global trade on behalf of American workers. And again, you've seen people on both sides of the aisles calling for this for years, but I think no other president lacked the courage or maybe the work ethic or the stamina to take on such a task. And I know there were some questions about the president's delayed departure earlier to Walter Reed. I'd like to address it was because he's working on this very issue, so he was running a bit behind this morning.
On the 90-day pause, is what would the president need to see in order to extend that 90-day pause for countries on tariffs?
Well, I think the president addressed this yesterday when he said he's hoping that there will be good deals made before the 90 days is up, and we will cut those deals as soon as we possibly can, country by country, tailor-made deals for each and every country as they all propose unique challenges and unique assets to each country, advantages rather, and when that 90-day mark hits, the president will make that decision then.
One more, if I could, on a different subject. So a bird earlier attacked my colleague, Peter Doocy, during a live shot at
I'm wondering
the White
if
House.
that's why Peter is absent from the seat. Is he doing okay?
He's recovering.
Has anyone checked on him?
He's recovering. Is anyone looking into that incident?
I could check in with GSA to see if anybody here is looking into it. I also understand there was a mouse in the briefing room earlier today, so I'm hoping somebody checked in on that, as I'm hoping it doesn't run up here and distract me. That would be a good way for all of you to distract me, actually. Have a mouse come run up here. So I'll get an answer for you on that, out of respect for our good friend Peter. Jeff?
Why is American consumer confidence so low?
Look, I think there's a great optimism in this economy, great optimism for the American people, a lot of reason for people to feel optimistic. The president is, as I just said, trying to renegotiate the global trade agenda that has ripped off the American people for far too long. As he said, this is going to be a period of transition. He wants consumers to trust in him, and they should trust in him. Look at what he did in his first term. And I just want to reiterate all of the reasons to be confident since you asked, Jeff. For those watching at home, yesterday the CPI report, inflation declined massively. Consumer prices are dropping for the first time in years. Energy prices are down. In fact, oil prices are down 20% since this president took office. Wholesale prices fell again. There have been trillions of dollars in investments into this country. Every day the president is signing executive orders to cut regulation, especially when it comes to Environmental Protection Agency, our energy industry. That's going to unleash the economic boom in this country that we saw in the president's first term. So trust in President Trump. He knows what he's doing. This is a proven economic formula.
What is he asking of Americans at this time? He talked about transition costs, transition problems. Is he asking something specific for Americans to do?
No, I think the president is asking for Americans trust in Trump, as I just said, trust in his economic agenda and formula. It's a proven formula that works. And by the way, clearly American people do in fact trust him because they did just overwhelmingly elect him to this office. Jennifer.
Is he going, I'm asking about the physical, is he undergoing any general anesthesia? And can you outline any of the other tests that he's doing today?
He is not. He is undergoing quite a few tests, imaging. Again, it's a it's a yearly physical, so there's quite a lot that goes into it to make sure the president is accomplishing all of his goals, and we will provide a readout of that as soon as we can.
And will you be committed to releasing all of the results, as many of the results as possible?
Of course, yes. The president's physician will do that. I spoke with him this morning.
Sure. Will you guys also consider releasing the president's fitness plan? He actually looks healthier than ever before. Healthier than he did 8 years ago, and I'm sure everybody in this room could agree. Is he working out with Bobby Kennedy? And is he eating less McDonald's?
I can confirm the president is in very good shape, as you see, on a near daily basis here. And in that vein, thank God it's Friday. It's been a very long and busy week here at the White House. We will see you all on Monday, and we will release the results of that report as soon as we can. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Have a great week. All right, well, that was the press briefing. Have they gotten shorter, the press briefings? That was not a particularly long one, but maybe, I mean, I don't know. How long was that? When did that start? That press briefing was about 22 minutes long. Am I right? Yes. That was 22 minutes. I mean, they're usually longer than 22 minutes. And it's not even, I mean, because it's not even 22 minutes of taking questions. Daniel Boberson says it's Friday. Anyways, interesting. That was, I mean, I like when there's press briefings, just because I think it's good for them to take questions, whoever's in the White House. That was pretty short as press briefings go. That's interesting. Matt Kinney, they haven't all been that short, and certainly some of them have been longer. I don't know that there was any huge news in it. Let me take a few comments from you guys. What did you guys think? What did you guys think? Let me take some comments. She talked about the physical he's having today. One of our viewers said, mouse alert, so short briefing. That's what Scott Zero said. Muhammad says they have nothing left to say. Andrew thought it was excellent. One of our viewers said, hope Peter is okay. Yeah, I saw some sort of, I don't have the rights to show it, but Peter Ducey was doing a live shot with Fox, and I guess a bird flew over right into his head, or near his head. I'll post a link to it in the chat. You can watch the bird fly near Peter Ducey. I'm posting a link right now. One of our viewers said, Peter has bird flu now? I have not heard that. We'll take a few more comments here. That was pretty short, though. Gina Pina thinks it was short because it's a quiet day and not much is happening. I mean, I would say it's true that there was no huge topic everybody was focusing on. But there's certainly topics people wanted to ask about. I mean, there could have been more questions. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with the man who was living in El Salvador, who was mistakenly sent, who was living in Maryland, who was mistakenly sent to an El Salvador prison. And now the Supreme Court has said the administration needs to facilitate him coming back. It was an interesting question. Someone asked, will that man be with the president of El Salvador when the president of El Salvador visits, I think it's on Monday? Here's an update here. I'll show you. Judge says it's extremely troubling. Trump administration cannot tell her location of deported man. There is the man right there, a picture from Reuters. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran migrant who lived in the U.S. legally with a work permit and was erroneously deported to El Salvador. So, hang on, I'll show you. I don't know what's going to happen with this. You can see Reuters says a U.S. federal judge said today it was extremely troubling that the Trump administration failed to comply with a court order to provide details on the status of a Maryland resident it illegally deported to El Salvador. U.S. District Judge Paula Zenas demanded at a hearing today that the administration identify the whereabouts of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was sent to El Salvador on March 15th. Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran migrant who was living in Maryland and had a work permit since 2019, was stopped and detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers on March 12th and questioned about alleged gang affiliation. He was deported on March 15th on one of 3 high-profile deportation flights to El Salvador that also included Venezuelan gang members. Zenas reportedly pressed a government attorney for answers. The judge today said, I'm not sure what to take from the fact that the Supreme Court has spoken quite clearly yesterday, and yet I can't get an answer today about what you've done, if anything, in the past, Zenas said. Drew Ensign, an attorney with the Department of Justice, repeated what the administration had said in court filings, that it would provide the information by the end of Tuesday once it evaluated the Supreme Court ruling. Yesterday, the Supreme Court said the Trump administration must take steps to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody to El Salvador. Yesterday, the Supreme Court said the Trump administration must take steps to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and detail the steps it has taken and will take to return him to the U.S. The ruling also said the lower court should clarify its order with due regard for deference to the executive branch of government. The administration said in a court filing earlier today that it was unreasonable and impracticable to say what its next steps are before they are properly agreed upon and vetted. Foreign affairs cannot operate on judicial timelines, in part because it involves sensitive country-specific considerations wholly inappropriate for judicial review, the filing said. Abrego Garcia's lawyers said at a Friday court filing the government continues to delay, obfuscate, and flout court orders while a man's life and safety is at risk. This case highlights the administration's tensions with federal courts, says Reuters. Several have blocked Trump policies, and judges have expressed frustration with administration efforts to comply with court orders. The Justice Department has already said that Abrego Garcia's being sent to El Salvador was due to an administrative error. A judge had ordered that he not be sent to El Salvador. I believe it was years ago. So what is going to happen with this? Will he end up back in the U.S.? I might do a poll on this. Here is my poll. Will Abrego Garcia be returned to the U.S.? That's my question. Yes or no? Well, I could ask a version of it which puts a timeline on it, but I'll just say yes or no. We haven't done a poll today, so I'm going to ask that question. When, if yes, when is a whole other answer. All right, hold on, I'm posting this question in the chat for you guys. See, I was doing it. I've posted it on Facebook and YouTube. I just got to get it posted over there on YouTube and Twitch. I just got to get it posted on Facebook. Hang on one moment here. Here's this, polls. Yes, no. Let's see what you guys had to say about this. Okay. Over on YouTube, here is the current vote result on YouTube. I am pulling it up on the screen right now. Oopsie. I was doing it. Let's try this one more time. On YouTube, here is the current result. 56% of you think he will not be returned to the U.S. 44% think he will be returned to the U.S. On Facebook, the current vote is 71% say no, 29% say yes. And on Twitch, %72 say no. So you guys are pretty pessimistic he's going to get returned to the U.S. Remember, the Supreme Court yesterday said that the U.S. government had to facilitate his being returned to the U.S. Said the Trump administration had to do that. This name stinks thinks someday probably. Aries EMS says, I truly hope he does. He's been a victim in all this. Aaron Quake says it's not wrong when he was not legally a citizen. Again, the Supreme Court has said that the Trump administration needs to facilitate his coming back to the U.S. Nikki Newark says be sent to a different country should be an option. Well, I don't know if he comes back to the U.S., maybe the U.S. would end up trying to send him to a different country. The issue was that a judge had ordered he not be sent to El Salvador because he faced potential harm there. Banjo claims nobody has ever been released from that prison. Is that true? I have no idea. Finding Peace thinks Bukele will refuse to return him and risk that lucrative deal they have with the Trump administration. Why should they return him? Well, I mean, a whole other thing. Who knows what'll happen is would the president of El Salvador say, I'm not returning him for whatever reason? Although it's a little strange if that happens because the U.S. is paying them to keep people in their prison. Thanks for voting in the poll, by the way. Hang on a moment. You can see here, same topic. U.S. says it needs more time to provide information on mistakenly deported Maryland man. That's from AP. The administration claims Abrigo Garcia is a member of the MS-13 gang, though he has never been charged with or convicted of a crime. His attorneys say there is no evidence he was in MS-13. The administration has conceded that it made a mistake in sending him to El Salvador, but argued that it could no longer do anything about it. The Abrigo Garcia already had an immigration court order preventing his deportation to El Salvador over fears he would face persecution from local gangs. Nova Scotia detector thinks he will be lost in the system. I was thinking about this. If news ever came out that like, oh, we can't find the guy or like something has happened to him, I mean, that would be just absolutely huge. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens with it. I don't know where this is all going, but it's certainly something I will be keeping an eye on. Frank Benlin thinks he will never be seen again. Alianis thinks the people in the El Salvador prison are victims. A number of you thinks he might have been harmed in the prison. Cheap-O-Matic, thanks for being a member. Oh, by the way, I owe a couple quick thanks here. Thanks for your support, Dennis Kennedy. Thank you, Dennis, for your support. Chop-O-Matic, Chop-O-Matic for being a member, thank you. Thank you, Bebop and Rocksteady, thank you. Open Contact. Thank you, Open Contact, for your support. Rimfire Channel, and again, Dennis Kennedy. Yeah, El Salvador under Bukele has taken as Dennis has pointed out, taken a strong anti-crime stance. Some praise it, some, I got to change the headline. Some claim that human rights violations have occurred in this crackdown. There's different views out there on it. Let me, hold on, White House press briefing, post coverage. All right, here's what I need to decide. here's what I need to decide. So the NTSB is going to be giving a press conference, an update, a media briefing update on the helicopter crash that was in New York and New Jersey yesterday on the Hudson River between New York and New Jersey. They're going to be giving this media briefing at 2:30. Now, I really don't think that at this point they're going to be like, we know what happened. I mean, this crash just happened yesterday. So, in theory, I could stick around and cover it. In theory, it's in 35. If it was in 5 minutes, I'd just say yes. If it was in 2 hours, I'd say no. I'm in that kind of in-between area. I'm throwing this out there. And looking at the chat. We'll see what people say. Oh, maybe I'll do that. One of our viewers said you could kind of say some of the things you say at the end of the stream now, and that's going to take a little time anyway. And then you could, yeah. So, I mean, or I could take a break and come back and cover it. We're 34 minutes away. I might just cover it. What I'll do, let me mention a couple things quickly right now. Let me mention a couple things. First of all, I'll do this. NTSB media briefing on Hudson River helicopter crash at 2:30 ET. Okay, so if I do this, okay, so that's up there. So what I'll do is, thank you, Matthew Bradford. Matthew says cover it. Thank you, Matthew. What I'll do is I'll mention a couple things now that I would normally mention at the end of the stream. And then I'll mention those now. So when the stream's over, when the media briefing, we'll stick around for the NTSB media briefing at 2:30 ET, which is in 32 minutes. 32 minutes. But when it finishes, I'm just gonna wrap up the stream in 5 seconds. So that's what we're gonna do. So let me mention a couple things now. First of all, I want to mention. This is Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. And subscribe and follow the channel because we come on the air random times. Not random. We come on the air when there's big breaking news, but I don't know when that's going to be most of the time. So what I was going to say is turn on the notifications for the channel. We have our own notification system. It works really great. You sign up once, you get sent a notification whenever we go live. We do it through Discord. So sign up for the notifications if you haven't. That's the best way to find out when we're going live. And the mods will post a link to the notifications in the chat. Also, in the description of this video on YouTube and Facebook, you can find that notifications link. So sign up for those. Also, I always post news around the clock, at least when I'm not sleeping, on my X account, which I'll show you in a second, which is @Lookner. I see some people still mentioning the small plane crash in Boca Raton in which 3 people died. So I've been posting about that earlier today. We talked about it earlier in the stream a bunch too. That was a Cessna aircraft, unfortunately, crashed with 3 people on board. All of them reportedly died. And I don't know the cause of that. But anyways, my X account is @Lookner. And you can follow me there for breaking news updates. And also, and again, so we're going to stay on the air right now, and we're going to have in 30 minutes the NTSB media briefing on the helicopter crash yesterday in Hudson River. For people who want to stick around and watch it, we'll cover that for you. Also, let's shout out our moderators who are here. While those of you chatting in the chat rooms, we can only have our chat rooms because of our moderators. They are awesome. So shout out to them. People like Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah, and Surly Dev on Twitch. Thank you. Speaking of Twitch, by the way, thanks to Bad Toastery for the bits on Twitch too. Thanks to our mods who are over right now in the YouTube chat, Ruth Krafasi, Roberts May Queen, Beth Mythical. Big thanks. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, on Facebook. We have mods like K. Larry Body, Margaret Riley. Hang on a moment here. Thanks to also our subscribers over on Facebook, like Kristen McConnell Gates, Robert Rial II, Kay, and Margaret too. Oh, and thanks to Gribble. Hey, thanks to Gribble. I really appreciate that. Thanks to everybody who donated today. That's so nice of you guys. That's what keeps the channel on the air. So I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. By the way, we also have a chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not live. A lot of our viewers like doing that, the Discord chat. If you want to do that, it's the same link as the notifications link. So check out the chat if you haven't. It's free. And we have our Discord. Thanks to our Discord mods, too, for all you do. Also, I should mention, for finding out when we're live, following our X account is a really good idea for that because I always post there before we go live. I give you a heads up, and I post updates about the channel at Agenda Free TV. If you're on X, follow us at Agenda Free TV. I wanted to mention that. Coming up on this stream, we have the media briefing from NTSB on the helicopter crash yesterday. That is coming up. The media briefing, the new media briefing, live in 28 minutes. Also, I want to mention, I want to shout out our Twitch subscribers. I want to do that. Shaggy Wall Street, Matthew Kohai 3, thanks for supporting the channel. ZZGGYY, Gina Pina, Nikki Newark, Geeg, Geeg says El Salvador fixed their high crime issues, many people moving back again. That's what Geeg says. No, not Geeg. That's not what Geeg said. That's what ZZGGYY said. Thank you to Emerald Cookson for subscribing. Jazzy Renee as well. And thanks to all of our other Twitch subscribers. I was going to try to find you something about that. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. I pulled up an article about El Salvador here. What to know about El Salvador's mega prison after Trump sent hundreds of immigrants there. By the way, thanks to all of our YouTube members too. Jen's Crunchy Vax, Naomi Nocturnal, Envy, Gary Paties, Per Holstrand, Evelyn in Maine, Jennifer Rochelle, Context Clueless, J.K. Sinar, Ivan, Aries EMS, Calligram, Getchapul, Naomi Nocturnal, Birdnerd, all of our other YouTube members, thank you. Bebop and Rocksteady, Context Clueless. Hey, thanks also Ronnie Kowaler from Denmark. Wow, thanks Ronnie for your support all the way from Denmark. That's kind of you, thank you. Thanks Irish Sweetness, Ethereal Planet for being YouTube members, Evelyn in Maine, Bama fan. By the way, just to mention the stock market here, in case you were wondering, I don't have access to my ticker right now. Dow is up 1.68%, S&P 500 up 1.8%, NASDAQ up 2%. Also, thanks so much to Fred Withrow. Hey, thanks Fred for your support. That's kind of you. You can see President AP in this article from March 16th said President Bukele of El Salvador has made the Central American country's stark, harsh prisons a trademark of his fight against crime. In 2023, he opened the Terrorism Confinement Center, or CCOT, where the immigrants were sent by the Trump administration a month ago. Bukele ordered the mega prison built as he began his campaign against El Salvador's gangs in March 2022. CCOT prisoners do not receive visits and are never allowed outdoors. The prison does not offer workshops or educational programs to prepare them to return to society after their sentences. A lot of, you can see here, the human rights organization Cristosal reported in March 2024, El Salvador had 110,000 people behind bars, including those sentenced to prison and those still awaiting trial. That's more than double the 36,000 inmates that the government reported in April 2021, a year before Bukele ramped up his fight against crime. I was just trying to get you some background on that. The whole campaign there against crime by the President Bukele. If you give me a second here. You can see in this article by AP from April 5th, they say El Salvador has lived under a state of emergency that suspends fundamental rights like access to a lawyer. Some 84,000 people have been arrested accused of gang ties. Homicides have plummeted in El Salvador, and the improved security has fueled President Bukele's popularity. Crime levels have lowered, violence levels have lowered during Bukele's 3-year campaign against powerful street gangs. Oh, there's actually an article about it. You can read about it on Wikipedia. I'll show you here. The Salvadoran gang crackdown, known in El Salvador as the State of Exception, began in March of 2022 as a response to a series of homicides committed by criminal gangs. The Salvadoran government declared a state of emergency that suspended several constitutional rights and enabled the government to launch mass arrests of suspected gang members. That still is in effect. As of March 4th, over 85,000 people accused of gang affiliations have been arrested, which has overcrowded El Salvador's prisons and has led the country to have the highest incarceration rate in the world by 2023. As of May 16, 2023, 5,000 people who were arrested had been released. Domestically, the crackdown has been popular among Salvadorans, many weary of gang violence. Conversely, human rights groups expressed concern that the arrests were arbitrary and had little to do with gang violence. And several U.S. government representatives had expressed concern about the violence in the country and the methods used to combat it. Anyways, you can read more about that on Wikipedia, Salvadoran gang crackdown. It's a very interesting issue. But I just wanted to give it, we were talking about it, so I wanted to give you some background if you weren't familiar with it. By the way, the population of El Salvador is 6.3 million. 6.3 million. So, you know, that is basically 1/50th of the U.S. population. So when that article says that, what did it say about the arrests? As of March of this year, over 85,000 people accused of having gang affiliations have been arrested in the last 3 years. That would be like in the U.S. arresting about 4 million people. Anyways, it's a little bit of a digression in the stream, but I wanted to bring that up because we were talking about it. Dennis Kennedy says, whatever they did frickin' worked. Again, you know, as I said, there's different opinions on it. And you have people happy about the reduction in crime, but you also have people who think that people's rights are being violated. Our viewer Zegith says, clearly no due process. So, but that is the country where those several plane loads of alleged gang members, I don't know if they were all alleged to be gang members, but a lot of them were alleged to be gang members, were sent by the Trump administration a month ago. Hey, by the way, thanks to Ronald Kame for the gift memberships. That's really nice of you, Ronald. Thank you. No, the White House press briefing already happened. You can rewind for that. In 17, we're staying on the air because in 17 minutes, there's going to be a NTSB briefing on the Hudson River helicopter crash. So I'm staying on the air for a little bit to cover that. We're going to have that live. Live coverage coming up in 17 minutes. Thanks also to Michael McIsaac for the gift memberships. That's really nice of you, Michael. R.A. Clark thinks El Salvador is doing the right thing. All right, let's see if I have any updates for you. Anna Bauer reports that the judge who is, it sounds like maybe there's a in-person hearing going on at the moment, or that was just going on in the last hour, about the Maryland man who was mistakenly sent to El Salvador prison by the U.S. government. Now the Supreme Court has said the U.S. government has to facilitate his return to the U.S. Anna Bauer reports that the judge has told the government she will require daily updates on their efforts to facilitate his return. Okay, we have about 15 minutes until the briefing. I'm just checking for other updates here. Hang on a second here. What is this? Oh, there's another thing going on today. I'm reading from Reuters. An immigration judge said she would rule today on whether the U.S. government had made the case that Columbia University student and Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil should be deported. So that's happening today. Interesting. So there could be update about that story as well. Let me see if I can find anything more about that for you. Hey, thanks to Tony Baloney for your support. I really appreciate it. Tony Baloney, thank you. Here, I have this right here, this story here. U.S. immigration judge, hold on. Oops, hold on, right here. U.S. immigration judge to decide whether Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil can be deported. This is from Reuters. I guess this is going on today. A U.S. immigration judge will rule today whether the government can deport Palestinian student activist Mahmoud Khalil a month after he was arrested at his Columbia University apartment building and transferred to a Louisiana jail. Last month, Secretary of State Rubio determined that Khalil, a prominent figure in the pro-Palestinian student protest movement that has roiled Columbia's New York City campus, Secretary of State Rubio ruled that he should be removed because his presence in the U.S. has potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences, citing the 1952 Immigration and Nationality Act. Khalil's case is the most high-profile test of efforts by President Trump, a Republican, to deport foreign pro-Palestinian students who are in the U.S. legally and, like Khalil, have not been charged with any crime. Khalil has a green card. He became a lawful permanent resident last year. I believe he has a green card. Khalil's lawyers said they will ask the judge at Friday's hearing to allow them to subpoena Rubio and depose him. Khalil and his lawyers say the U.S. is targeting him only for speech that is protected under the U.S. Constitution, including the right to criticize U.S. foreign policy. Khalil says criticism of the U.S. government's support of Israel's military occupation of Palestinian territories is wrongly being conflated with anti-Semitism. So I'll keep an eye on this case. We might get some news from this case today. In about 9 minutes, we're going to show you the briefing from the NTSB on the Hudson River helicopter crash. Live briefing. That's why we are staying on the air. By the way, I think there's a video that goes along with this article. Hold on a second, I can play it for you. Where is it here? That's not it. That is not it. I found it. Here's a video from Reuters that goes along with that article we were just talking about about Mahmoud Khalil. So let's just take a look at this for a second. Hold on. Here is the Reuters video about Mahmoud Khalil. Oopsie. Let's do it this way. Okay, I think we're ready to play the video.
You're gonna have to come with us.
An immigration judge on Tuesday gave the U.S. government 1 day to show evidence for deporting Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil, who was arrested in New York a month ago and then transferred to a rural Louisiana jail.
Release Mahmoud Khalil now!
The case has become a flashpoint for President Donald Trump's pledge to deport some non-U.S. citizens who took part in protests against Israel's military campaign in Gaza. The U.S. government has said the pro-Palestinian demonstrator should be forced out from the country because he withheld information from his application for a green card, which he has denied. Khalil, a Palestinian born in a refugee camp in Syria, has called himself a political prisoner. His lawyers have said that he was targeted in retaliation for his role in advocating for Palestinian rights, meaning the arrest violated free speech protections under the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment. Department of Homeland Security lawyers said they would provide the evidence by the Wednesday afternoon deadline set by the immigration judge Jamie Comins. In a statement later, Khalil's attorney said he was concerned the judge would rule without giving the defense time to respond to the government's case. If the government's deportation case is terminated at the next hearing scheduled for Friday afternoon, Khalil is free under immigration law. The government cannot challenge the termination, but if Comins terminates the case without prejudice, it can attempt to file the removal case again. If Comins rules that Khalil can be deported, he would then be able to ask her to rule on whether he is eligible for relief from removal, which can be granted in limited cases. Khalil can also appeal her rulings.
Okay, so look, there's supposed to be a ruling on this from a judge today, so I don't know what's going to happen. You heard some of those options at the end of the video there by Reuters. I mean, in theory, he could even be, oops, now what happened? In theory, he could even be released today if the judge so rules. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. We have about 6 minutes until the NTSB briefing, which we are going to show you live. Thomas Darwin says should be soon. Thomas, do you mean the briefing or the ruling? Reuters says the start of the hearing on Mahmoud Khalil is at Hang on a moment here. I think it already started. I think it started 24 minutes ago, the hearing. So we could have big news on that today. Thank you for being with us. If you missed it, we covered the White House press briefing earlier. It was pretty short. If I have it right, I went back and checked. It seemed to me it was about 22 minutes, including the part at the opening where the press secretary talks about various things before she starts taking questions. So it was a pretty short briefing. Anyways, we stayed live because in about 4 minutes there is supposed to be this NTSB briefing on the helicopter crash yesterday in the Hudson River, which killed 6 people. So I figured we'll cover that and show you that. I appreciate those of you who stuck around to see it. So we're going to show you that live. So again, thanks to all of our moderators for being here. I am still in Lima, Peru, visiting here for a little while longer. So thanks for bearing with any kind of technical difficulties we might have. And if there's some huge news later in the day, maybe we'll come on the air and cover it, as we normally do. It would be pretty big news if, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if by some chance the judge ruled that Mahmoud Khalil is to be released, that would certainly be a huge news. I have my eyes on here. Let me show you. Well, I can't. Let's say no this. Hold on. Yeah, NTSB has not gone live yet. As soon as they go live, I'll show it to you. I have my eyes on it right now. But they are not live yet. They usually start on time, the NTSB hearings. I should at least have something to put up on the screen in about 1.5 minutes. Thank you so much, Charles Goki, for your support. Thank you, Charles. And Charles gave a membership out. Thank you, Charles. So nice of you. Thanks also Jen's Crunchy Vax. Jen's Crunchy Vax, our member. As I said before, I don't think that the NTSB is going to say they know what happened with that plane, with that helicopter crash. But yet, but maybe we'll get some more information. If you missed it, there was a new video that has emerged of the helicopter. It's really striking. I'll post the link in the chat right now to the video. But that video shows the helicopter basically just flying along, it looks like, and then all of a sudden, it basically just seems to break apart in the air, where you see, it looks like you're seeing maybe the tail and the rotor just come off of it, and then it just plunges to the ground, plunges to the water. Terrible. I just posted a link of it in the chat, but it's really, our viewer Simp Nasty says, very weird. We talked about the Boca Raton plane crash earlier. We're not doing a separate video for it. It was a small plane that crashed and 3 people got killed, unfortunately. Ruth said, horrific to see what happened to the helicopter. I mean, really very, very strange. Gabriel Lundis says, popped off like a Lego. Scary as hell. All right, any moment now I'm looking at the NTSB page. We're waiting for them to go live. So I should change my headline to any moment. They are a couple minutes past the start time, but they're not live yet. So I have my eye on it. Cogito, our viewer, believes that the rate of accidents is higher this year. I don't know. I have to look that up, of plane accidents. Aviation accidents. I have to look it up. Also, I don't know if there have been more fatal ones or not in the U.S. I do not know. The AP talked in an article today about some of the fatal accidents. There was the helicopter yesterday. I mean, 3 people were killed today when a small plane crashed in Boca Raton. In Arizona in February, 2 small planes collided in midair. What was this one? 2 small planes collided in midair near an Arizona airport in mid-February, killing 2 people who were on one of the aircraft. A small commuter plane crashed in western Alaska in early February, killing all 10 people on board. A medical transport plane crashed in Philadelphia in late January, killing 6 people on board. Obviously, there's that terrible incident with the collision of the American Airlines jet and the Army helicopter that killed 206, not 200. What was it? I don't remember the number of that people killed in the collision. I have to look that up. There was, and then, well, last December there was that terrible South Korea plane crash where the Jeju airplane went off the runway and hit a wall, killing everybody on board. The helicopter and plane collision incident killed 67 people, I think, combined between the plane and the helicopter. 3 on the helicopter, 64 on the plane. Again, still waiting any moment now. Live press briefing. We stayed on the air to do some bonus coverage after the White House press briefing. Live press briefing from the NTSB on the Hudson River helicopter crash? Was there? Oh, you know what? I think our viewer is right, that a couple people survived the Jeju aircraft. I think you're right about that. Sorry about that. I'd forgotten. Because I remember reading a report from somebody who was on the plane. Yes, there were 2 survivors, so my bad on that. Thanks for reminding me. Thanks for reminding me in the chat about that. I'd just forgotten about it. Still waiting for the NTSB briefing to start any moment now. Any moment now. Was it both crew members who survived? Not all the crew members, but were they both crew members? Yes, there were 2 cabin crew who survived, seated in the rear of the plane. That Jeju air crash, which was terrible. Still waiting here for the start of that briefing. Any moment now. I don't have video of it yet. I'm just waiting for the video. Normally they're pretty on time. Kyle Cheney from Politico reports that a federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to give daily updates about its efforts to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Salvadoran migrant who was living in Maryland, who was mistakenly deported a month ago to El Salvador. And now the Supreme Court has ordered the U.S. Trump administration to facilitate his return. Kyle Cheney of Politico says a federal judge has ordered daily updates from the Trump administration about their efforts to return the man, describing its stonewalling, even on his whereabouts, as extremely troubling. Again, sorry this hasn't started yet. Any moment now. It's 7 minutes after the start time. The NTSB just posted that they are investigating the crash today of a Cessna 310 airplane near Boca Raton, Florida. That plane crash killed 3 people. That plane had taken off from Boca Raton Airport. It crashed, I think, pretty soon after. Hold on, here it is. I'm going to put the briefing up right now. Give me a moment. You'll see it in a second. You'll see the briefing in a second. Hang on. There it is.
We're going to have the NTSB come up here, brief you on where they are in the process. Then the city will come back up here and answer any specific questions on where we are from the process on our side. So You have the chairwoman of the NTSB. She'll come up here shortly. She's right out there. She'll answer any questions, tell you what's going on. Then we will resume from the city side, answer any questions separately. So we'll ask you guys to separate those two components out with regards to questions. I think Kim is providing you right now the names of the individuals and confirmation for those of you that don't have that. So we'll give it a minute, and the chairwoman of the NTSB will come in, and then we'll take it from there afterwards. Okay?
Okay, so we are about to watch. We're about to watch the NTSB briefing on yesterday's helicopter crash in the Hudson River. All right, here we go.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Jennifer Homendy, and I'm chair of the National Transportation Safety Board. Our investigator in charge for this investigation, we call the investigator in charge the IIC, is Leah Reed. That's Leah, and then it's Reed. The National Transportation Safety Board is an independent federal agency that's charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States and significant events in all other modes of transportation. As you know, we're here to investigate yesterday's crash of a Bell 206L4 helicopter into the Hudson River near Jersey City, New Jersey. The helicopter departed the downtown Manhattan Wall Street heliport in New York at about 14:50 for an air tour flight. The helicopter is owned by Meridian Helicopters, LLC, which is based in Broussard, Louisiana, and operated by New York Helicopter Charter, Inc. Before I go on, I want to extend on behalf of the entire NTSB our deepest condolences to those who lost loved ones in this tragic event. I also want to start by thanking the first responders. This was a tremendous, tremendous effort. And I want to thank specifically, first and foremost, the mayor for allowing us to be here in City Hall and do this press conference, and for all the support that you've given us and the team. I also want to thank the Jersey City Office of Emergency Management, the Jersey City Police Department, Jersey City Fire, Jersey City EMS, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey Police Department, the New Jersey Park Police, the New Jersey Transit Police Department, Hudson County Office of Emergency Management, the NYPD Special Operations, FDNY Special Operations, New York City Office of Emergency Management, the United States Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, and so many others that we will continue to mention in our follow-up press briefings. Now, I want to set expectations for this press conference. This crash occurred yesterday at about 3:15 p.m., so we're not even 24 hours later. Rightfully, the focus yesterday was on, first and foremost, victim recovery, and then wreckage recovery. Our investigators, the NTSB, we stay out of the way when victim recovery efforts are in process. That is first and foremost most important. Our investigation can always wait. Once that was done, we had Luke Sciatta, who is our chief of our Eastern region, who lives right here in New York, on scene as part of the wreckage recovery operations. And those two were the focus for yesterday. The rest of the team began to arrive late last night, including me, and early this morning. So that means this is the first full day of our investigation. And as you can see, our investigators are out doing some of the work that I'm about to talk about in just a second. But as far as information sharing today, I am not going to share a lot of investigative information. We have a lot of information, but we do not speculate. We need to confirm information. That is a process that takes time. So I will say, I understand that you have a lot of questions, and we will attempt to answer them over the coming days. A little bit about our team and our process. We have 17 people who are here on scene. That includes 10 investigators. They are supported by a minimum of 10 experts back in our headquarters in Washington, D.C. The on-scene specialists, they are experts, and they have the following specialties. Operations, they'll focus on the helicopter operator. They'll look at the owner of the helicopter itself, and they will look at pilot qualifications and other information. We have experts on helicopter airworthiness, on structures, and on systems. We also have our evidence management team here, as well as our transportation disaster assistance team, which is responsible for working with the family to get them the assistance they need throughout the course of the investigation, not just here on scene, but in the coming days, weeks, and months throughout the investigation to the issuance of our final report, and sometimes for months and years beyond. The wreckage exam began this morning. Our team, I was there, our team began pulling components and the engine off the wreckage and other components that they would like to more closely examine. Most of their focus was to turn it upright and move the helicopter or the wreckage inside so that they can begin to do a more comprehensive examination and get to the other side of the wreckage that was against the pavement. We also are aware that there are dive teams. The New York Police Department is still diving for components and pieces of the helicopter that we are still looking to recover. Those include the main rotor, the main transmission, the roof structure, and the tail structure, and we appreciate all of their hard work. And then we have a whole team that is collecting the standard information that we normally gather as part of any investigation, which includes pilot qualifications, logbooks, history of the helicopter, maintenance logs, and so forth. We do have the logbooks for the pilot. The pilot held a commercial pilot certificate with rotorcraft and instrument ratings. The pilot reported 450 hours of total flight experience on his most recent medical, which was issued on September 20th, 2024. As of March 29th, 2025, the pilot accumulated about 788 hours of total flight time. We still need to calculate flight time in that Bell helicopter, and I'll have more information on that hopefully tomorrow, because he previously was flying a Robinson 44. Now, what we are hoping is that we are able to get the public to send us any photos or video you may have, or if you want to contact us because you believe that you have information that could be pertinent to our investigation, please reach out to us, provide that information to us. We will get in contact with you at the following email address: witness@ntsb.gov. That's witness at ntsb.gov. Now, I will take some questions. Again, a reminder, I know there will be questions for very detailed investigative information. I am happy to talk about the team, their qualifications, the process. I am not going to speculate on investigative information. We are very factual, and we will provide that in due course. So I will call on you. Please state your name, your affiliation for me.
Sure. It's Matthew Chase of Newsday. To the extent you're able to share this, is there a preliminary cause? I realize you gave that early talk. Is there a cause preliminarily that you can share with us?
The question is there a preliminary cause? We do not have a preliminary cause. That takes time. As I stated, our team focused on helicopter airworthiness and structures and systems is at the facility with the wreckage, doing the wreckage exam. That takes time. Of course, it takes time to also gather information, records that we need to comb through. So we do not have that at this time. And just to mention, as regarding cause, we will not speculate on cause ever, but we will not be determining any sort of preliminary or probable cause at the scene of an accident. We don't do that. What we are doing here is gathering the perishable evidence, the evidence that we need to gather for our investigation. When it comes to maintenance logbooks and other materials, we can look at those materials later on. What we need to do is look at the wreckage now. We need to focus on finding some of the additional components and structures that we're looking for, conduct witness interviews, and gather the records that we need. We can review the records later, so that probable cause will not occur for quite some time. Yes, ma'am, and then we'll go here. So the question was what we were doing with the engine. Nothing that we would not normally do as part of our standard investigation, where we would have wreckage and we'd start separating some of the components that we always look at. That's standard in our investigation. Of course, we'll have a team that always looks at engines or power plants to evaluate them as in standard course of our investigation. So nothing in particular. It was in the wreckage, and so we separated it from the helicopter so we could take a closer look at it in a more upright position. Yes, sir.
Broadly speaking, what do you think the physical evidence will tell you about what caused this crash? And then also, this particular company had a couple of serious incidents in the last several years. Do you think that will be relevant to your investigation?
The question is, what will us looking at as part of this investigation on scene tell us about cause, and what will we be looking at related to the safety history as part for this particular helicopter company? First of all, we always look at safety history. That's a standard part of all of our investigations, so we'll collect that, not just from the Federal Aviation Administration, that is a party to every single one of our investigations, but we'll also ask those questions in interviews and get other information that will help us get a very broad view and detailed information about the safety history of this particular operator and also the owner of the helicopter itself. With respect to what will it tell us on scene about our investigation, the evidence right now, everything is on the table. We don't rule anything out. We take a very detailed and comprehensive view, and it's way too early in the investigation. It will be too early on scene. That's much later in the investigation. Yes, ma'am. The question is, what have we been able to glean from the videos that are already circulating on social media? Those are very helpful for our investigators, certainly, but a lot of those videos are from a very far distance, and so we'll have to look at those a little bit further back at headquarters, but we're hoping to get some additional videos that provide us information. We don't know what people have recorded or taken pictures of that could be helpful in an investigation. We have found in past investigations, and I'm just thinking of one that I went to in Ketchikan, Alaska, a mid-air collision where photos from somebody who was on board one of the airplanes helped us significantly in our investigation. So it can be very key parts of our investigation. So for anyone who didn't hear my previous request, please send us any sort of videos or photos or information you'd like to share with us at witness@ntsb.gov. Yes, ma'am. So the question is, do we have any sort of concerns or have we issued any sort of safety recommendations in the past about these type of air tour operations? We have. Actually, we did. So this particular operator was governed under Part 135 of the Federal Aviation Regulations, but this particular operation was under Part 91. All air tours are. We have issued an entire report on Part 91 operations with respect to revenue passengers. We believe in one level of safety strongly, and that may not look like regulation for a major commercial airline, but we do believe that they should be regulated. We have issued recommendations in the past on recorders, crash-resistant recorders. We've issued numerous recommendations on safety management systems, on particular regulations for Part 91. It's too early to say what we would recommend as part of this investigation. However, this is a concern that we've raised for a number of years. Certainly we raised this after the Fly Nyan crash, and in a specific report that we have online at ntsb.gov focused on Part 91 revenue passenger operations. And so I would direct you actually to that report. It was very comprehensive about our recommendations, specifically about air tour operators. And if you can't find that, our media relations team can help provide that information, because we did issue a set of recommendations to improve safety in this area. That will be part of the question is, was this operator complying with those recommendations? Those are recommendations, not regulations, but we would have to look at that, and that will be standard in this investigation. So thank you very much, sir. And then I'm going to go over here. Have we recovered the rotor? We are looking for the main rotor and the tail rotor right now.
Isn't done, there's going to be a disaster where they're going to crash into one of these buildings or crash into the neighborhoods up there. They're annoying, and they're bothering. People have been asking and asking and asking, and nothing has been done.
Thank you. There was a comment about, thank you, sir. There was a comment about the concern about these helicopter operations, and thank you very much for sharing that. Appreciate it. Yes. The question is, what would result? How did this essentially? How did this tragedy happen, where a helicopter would break apart in the air? I understand that is a significant concern and a question on everyone's mind. It is going to take time. We need to do a very thorough examination of the wreckage to determine what occurred first and how that occurred. Once we have that, we'll be able to release that to the public.
Some more questions?
Yes. Sure. Yeah, great question, because I think sometimes people are reluctant to really reach out to us because they may not think something is relevant to our investigation. So the question was on reports of a large flock of birds in the area shortly before the crash. We are aware of those reports. We discussed it this morning. It's something we will be looking into. What I will say to the public, if something struck you as different, or maybe you paused, or it crossed your mind that maybe it's something you would like to share with our investigators, there's no downside, please, in sharing that information with us. You can be very helpful in providing that investigative information to the NTSB. So again, witness@ntsb.gov. Even if you think it's irrelevant, please send it in. Yes, sir.
Hi, Stephen Nesson, WNYC Radio. You said there are 17 people on site here working on the investigation and 10 in D.C. Is that how many people you would typically have for a helicopter crash investigation? Is that the same number, for example, during the Flynon helicopter crash, or have cuts of the federal government reduced your number of investigators?
So the question is the 17 investigators here and 10 who are supporting back home, but the 17 personnel here, 10 of which are investigators. Is that typical for an investigation like this? How would it compare to Fly-Nyon? And would it be less as a result of any sort of cuts to the agency? First of all, let me address the agency. We have not experienced any personnel losses other than typical retirements in our agency. Our agency has been provided with, by the administration, thank you, an exemption from the deferred resignation program. We got a hiring exemption for several investigative positions within each of our transportation modes, so we can bring our numbers up to help us in our investigation, and that is critical. So we have not suffered in any way. With respect to comparison on Fly-Nyon, I don't know how many investigators were here on Fly-Nyon. Certainly our media team can provide that to you. It really isn't... What I will say for our investigations is when an accident occurs, we look at what might be areas we want to look into. How many people can we send based on the rest of our workload? And because we have a pretty heavy workload right now, and that is the decision making that goes into what expertise do we need and who do we want to send. That is what feeds into that, so it might vary depending on the investigation. Okay, that is the end of questions today. What I will ask is that you monitor X, which is NTSB_newsroom, and also NTSB.gov, which is our website, which will have updates on future press conferences. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, that was the press conference from the NTSB on yesterday's helicopter crash in the Hudson River. And what are they saying? Are they saying anything? Hold on a second.
Any questions to our emergency management or director of the police? We could answer those as well.
Hold on,
If
it's not done
we'll
yet.
close it out and say thank you for coming.
People from the city are up there.
to speak to that, Greg? Black box question.
Wait, what happened? That's it. Hold on. I might have it. I might have it from Reuters. Hold on a second. They ended their... No, they ended that. And then now what's happening? Reuters is showing her leaving. Is that still alive? Hold on. Why did they end it? They were answering a question. Hold on.
Has been assisting us since the last evening. They're doing a comprehensive search of the crash area. If in fact that item is recovered, that'll be turned over as part of the evidence.
You don't know if
I don't know if this, right.
But is it possible that this model does not have a black box?
I have no idea. That would have to be directed to.
We don't know if there's a black box, and they haven't, no word it's been recovered yet. Okay.
The area in question is it's about 5 feet deep where the chopper went down. It's a very rocky substance on the bottom there. So there was challenges for the scuba people to get in there. Even to this day, we were doing recovery on the pier line and the shoreline where getting a boat in that close was tough. So it was a lot of the stuff our emergency service people, people from my office were out there physically walking the shoreline recovering items.
Is it 5 feet deep?
5 feet deep, roughly. Yes.
Question for Mayor Bullock. Do you know if the weather was going along, flying in from Spain as far as yet?
I believe they said it was an hour and a half from now until he arrives. Is that what they said?
Yes. All the
he was flying in this morning, and then they said an hour and a half from.
He'll be arriving about.
Yeah, in about an hour from now, he'll be arriving.
So, question for the gentleman from emergency management: how big is the debris? Yesterday we saw boats spread out quite far. There was some debris found, as far north as Hoboken Terminal. How large of an area are your divers, NYPD divers, having to search?
Well, that's the discretion of the Coast Guard. Obviously, they've been establishing where the dives are currently operating. The one location that they're looking at, they've discovered some information based on sonar and things like that. It's approximately 75 feet deep, so it's a pretty wide area right now. Primarily, we're in the area of the crash site and then working outward. But as the dive teams discover items that doesn't appear normal, they're marking them, and then based on the currents and things like that, they'll be back to continue their dives in that area.
Can I get a clarification just to make sure I heard this right? So where the body of the chopper went into the water, that's 5 feet deep right there?
Approximately 5 feet deep.
Okay, because there's that video of the blade whirling around, and that went into the water, so further.
Yeah, that's the area that's the water's approximately 75 deep, 75 foot. They have found some items on the floor based on sonar and things like that that are not normal appearances, and that's why they're continuing to mark that. Hudson River is a very, very tough place to dive. So we're dealing with the expertise of the NYPD, and they're going to make sure it's done safely, and we're going to recover what's down there. It may take some time, but they're going to stay there until they have to get what they have to get.
Visibility in the water.
Excuse me?
Visibility in the water.
Very, very murky. I mean, I was there last night when they were physically removing the victims. You literally can't see your hand in front of you, but they did a phenomenal job.
Okay.
Forgive this ignorant question, but 75 feet deep from where?
From the shoreline.
Greg Kears.
Greg Kears, K-I-E-R-C-E.
And that's not a radius, that's
straight out.
Straight out.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Mayor, can you specify as best as possible whatever location on the Jersey City side the crash occurred closest to?
You want to answer that, Greg, as well? You must stay with that as well.
If you're familiar with the Port Authority vents down at down by foot of 6th Street, roughly. It's adjacent right to the Port Authority bank. It's adjacent right to the Port Authority pier where it houses the vents for the Howland Tunnel. Yes. I'm sorry?
They told us, I touched on the fact that they were here for a birthday trip for the mom. Her birthday is actually, I understand, in June, but it was a trip that they were doing now. It was one of the child's birthdays today. He was here for a business trip, arriving on Sunday, touring some Siemens entities in Pittsburgh, is what they told us. And then they extended the trip with the family arriving a couple days ago for the birthday portion of the trip.
Birthday today or yesterday?
They said his birthday, or when the child's birthday was today, is what they said. Yeah. Excuse me? I don't know. Yeah?
Just a quick question about birds. Forgive me, I'm not familiar with the birds in this area. Is it a typical problem that there are birds that could possibly, interact with their flight?
There were 3 working theories. There was the birds discussion, there was drone discussion, and mechanical failure discussion. And we'll see where it goes. And again, I don't want to hypothesize, but I think as time goes on, we'll leave it at that.
What are your thoughts on the regulation issue?
I think that you need more regulation there, and we need the FAA to restrict the tourism on the helicopters. It's a very crowded space, and those of you that aren't familiar with it, you only could go so high because you can't interfere with Newark, LaGuardia, and JFK on the commercial airlines. So you have all of the news outlets, you have the transportation, you have the tourism, all in a very, very tight space that can't go above a certain elevation. So it is very congested, and it's a very, very congested space on the ground. So it's dangerous, and as he said, had it been 50 feet more towards the shoreline, it would have landed on a walkway that is highly trafficked and not far from a playground over there close to Newport, and it's another 100 feet. It could have been in the middle of Newport Parkway. So it's a very dangerous situation.
You want them to happen?
Yeah, I think that you need to be practical about it. Post 9/11, there was restrictions, and it seemed like it worked okay. And then over time, we've brought back those restrictions and more traffic. That helicopter did multiple tours that day already. They are very busy operators, and that probably is going to lead to questions around maintenance and all of those sort of things. And by the time it's resolved, the world will stop watching this, unfortunately, because it takes the NTSB a lot of time to get to a resolution. But there's going to be a lot of questions on how those tourist operators work, and I think there's reason to be concerned over it.
Hi, my name is Destiny for the New York Post. The pilot has been ID'd as a Navy SEAL vet, and I was just wondering if you've been in contact with his family.
They told us I have not. He's been in contact. The mother is in Utah. And he's a veteran and African-American male, 36 years old? Yes, 36 years old. Yeah.
For clarification purposes, Mr. Mayor, for Univision, we understand there were 3 children. Can you clarify the ages?
Do you have the exact ages? Kim, when we're done, Kim will give you the exact ages. Kim will come up at the end and give you the exact ages. She'll give you that information. She'll give you that. Anything else before we wrap it up? Yes. I mean, look, you have these operators saying a lot of different things. I think a reasonable person would come to the conclusion that if you're a pilot and you're going on a trip, you would recognize whether you have fuel or you don't have fuel in that. That helicopter was used on multiple trips earlier in that day. So I would likely rule that out. I'm going to go with the hypothesis that that's probably not going to end up being the outcome on this.
Have you worked with the family in Spain to arrange?
We spoke today to the executives. I did to the executives at Siemens, and they flew out last night. And the one that flew out actually has a close family relationship with the deceased. They would vacation together, so there's familiarity there. He was facilitating conversations with the consulate in order to facilitate the release of the bodies to bring them back to Spain. And then, as we said earlier, family members should be arriving in an hour or so.
You said the brother-in-law?
Kim will give you the pilot's name and the ages.
Brother-in-law, you said?
Yeah, I believe it was the wife's brother. Yeah.
Yeah, another question for your emergency management folks.
Greg.
Items that the divers are looking for, does that aircraft have a black box? Are you looking for that?
Whatever items, as I say, I'm not familiar with whether there's a black box or not on that type of an aircraft. What they are looking for now in particular is the transmission, the rotors, and other associated items associated with the actual engine and things like that. When the chopper was taken up, it was very, very seriously damaged. So as the NTSB chair had said, it was delivered to the Army Corps of Engineers via boat. And this morning they were over there first thing doing their first portion of the investigation. But as I mentioned, there were some items that were found on the sonar that is a matter of interest. So they are continuing to do their dives. Weather permitting, of course, you know, it's a tough, very choppy out there today, but they're the best at what they do.
Thank you. You want to give the guy?
Okay, so that was the press briefing. They said, oh, hold on, somebody's saying something else? Hold on, wait a second.
If everybody is ready, everybody have pen and paper?
They're going to give a little more information.
Okay.
Hey, Director, how are you?
They're asking if you guys can just get down because they're just wait, guys.
Are you going to be doing a camera?
They're asking you to. They're yelling at you.
She's not saying anything that's for the camera. She's just giving a name.
I'll wait till you're ready. Okay. I will give names and spellings, and I'll do it twice. I'll go back over. Please forgive the pronunciation. Augustine Escobar Canidas. That's Agustin Escobar Canadas, 49.
It's the father.
Mercy Camp Ruby Montal, MERCE CAMPRUBI MONTAL, 39.
That's one word?
Yeah, that's three names. Mercedes Escobar Camp Ruby, MERCEDES ESCOBAR CAMPRUBI 9. Her date of birth was April 11th, 2016. Shawnkeese Johnson was the pilot, 36. SEANKESE Johnson, spelled normally, JOHNSON.
And he's 36.
36. I can go through it again if you guys need
Just
me to.
the wife and kids.
Okay, so I'll just go through it all one more time so that we don't get asked a bunch of times. All right, so 49-year-old Augustine Escobar Canidas, AGUSTIN ESCOBAR CANADAS, again 49. Mercy Camp Ruby Montal, MERCE CAMPRUBI MONTAL, 39. Victor Escobar Camp Ruby, VICTOR ESCOBAR CAMPRUBI, 4. Mercedes Escobar Camp Ruby, I'll just spell the first name, MERCEDES. And then the pilot, Shawnkeese Johnson, SEANKESE, Johnson spelled normally, 36.
Where's the other child?
Those are the names that I have right now.
There's 3. Oh, no, there's 2.
Yep.
Oh, you're right.
Those are the only names I have right now.
Yeah, Victor and Mercedes.
Those are the only names that I have confirmed.
Yeah, not the 11-year-old. There were 3 kids, yeah.
Augustine Canidas is the dad, right?
49.
49.
So why don't you have the, I'm sorry,
that's what I have confirmed. It's out of my hands. That's what I'm giving.
and the two that passed at the hospital, do you know which were, but they were the 2 children, right?
Yes.
Sorry, how old is Mercedes?
Yeah, she would have been 9 today.
The one thing I didn't get is just like the spacing. I know, I'm sorry.
You said it quickly, so.
Well, they're all because they're all spelled the same.
Okay.
It's like Escobar, Canada's, Camper Ruby, Escobar, Escobar.
Sorry. They used to.
All right, so that was the briefing. Really sad. And NTSB is going to look into why that happened. You heard that they hadn't recovered a black box. They don't even know if there is one. The authorities said after the NTSB spoke, the local authorities. And they have not recovered. They're still looking for the rotor. I think they said the tail. Is it called the tail rotor? I don't know. But like the main rotor and the tail. Is it the tail rotor? Is that what it is? But it sounded like they were looking for both of those things. And also, the helicopter crashed in 5-foot deep water. So it's not that deep where the main wreckage is. As our viewer Jason Santoro wrote in, it was a, what did Jason say? He said, he said that's a big fall. Horrible. Yeah, I mean, if you look at video out there, basically just fell into the water from high up, from where it was flying. Our viewer Eb says there's no black box. I don't know. I mean, in the press, from what I remember just seeing, they said they weren't sure if there was a black box in it. So I don't know. Chris N says they hit really fast. Yeah, so the 75 feet, I think what he was saying is that the location where they were searching, I think he was saying the location where the rotor might have hit was 75 feet out from the shore. That's what it sounded like to me. It was a little confusing. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up right now. So we stayed on some extra time after the White House press briefing to cover this, but we kind of did the whole, we did the whole end of the stream announcements earlier. So really quickly, I'm going to wrap this up. But I appreciate you guys joining. And again, the NTSB says they don't have a cause now. They're going to be looking into it, looking at gathering the evidence, looking at all the evidence. And they don't have a cause right now of what happened here. But I very much appreciate you guys being here for the stream. If there's big news later today, we can come on and do another live stream. Again, thank you. I'll just say thanks to our mods one more time. I really appreciate it. And thanks. I owe Ivan a thank you. Thank you, Ivan, for your support. I really appreciate that, Ivan. Thank you. And again, shout out to our moderators, Ruth Krafasi, Sabrina, all of our other YouTube moderators, Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, and on Twitch over there, all of our Twitch moderators who have been there, Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah, thank you, and our other Twitch moderators. By the way, thanks also My Crystal Clear Life for subbing. Thanks for subbing, My Crystal Clear Life, for being a sub for 15 months. It's really nice of you on Twitch. And also our Facebook moderators, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, and all of our other Facebook moderators, Paul Anderson. And I did all the other goodbye stuff before. So I'm going to wrap this up. And thanks you guys for tuning in. Thanks to all of our viewers like C. Ayers, Dean R., Massachusetts Guy, Billy Joe, just a few more thank yous. Aria K, Justin King, thanks for watching. And Duffy, and Jelly Plane, and all the other viewers out there, CAC813 and the others, Otto D. Lou. All right, that is it for right now. Thank you for watching. If you missed the White House press briefing, you can go back and rewind and watch it. That's it for right now. We'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.